Now I'm going to dice an onion, and it's important to understand your onion and knowing that this part here is considered the top. The root here is the bottom. So the onion's on the ground, this part grows up out of the ground, and the roots come down here. And you got to know that because you got to know which end to slice first. So I start with the tip here, and I'm going to cut just this little piece off, like that. That I'll use for stock. Now I can turn my onion flat, like this. If I have a lot of, let's say, root on there, you can go ahead and do like a little small trim on that, but you really want to make sure that that stays intact. Next, flat side down, I'm going to use the high technique here and cut my onion, and I've got my hand on top of my blade, and it's actually the spine, and I'm going to work my way down and then cut my onion in half. Now you notice I didn't peel it first because it's going to be a lot easier to peel now. Look at this. Pull that back, peeled. Pull this back. I don't like the looks of that little part there, so I'm going to go ahead and just tear it off. All right, and all that will be going into my stock. So next, we're going to dice this onion. And I'm going to do that by leaving this intact and then making slices this way down the onion. So if you look at the onion, you can see it kind of has sort of this like rainbow shape right here. So those are the little layers, and then it has striations like this. So my cut, I'm going to follow along here, these striations, but I'm not going to cut all the way through. So just initially, got my pinch grip, I'm going to come here and I'm going to cut through all the way till I hit that cutting board, coming through and all the way down to the cutting board. That's important to get it all the way through. And this here, you know, the closer you make your cuts, the smaller your dice is going to be. Once I get to this point, I use my hands to hold it together and cut in between. You're going to want to use a really sharp knife so that you don't have to struggle and push through. Plus, a sharp knife will reduce the tearing that happens when you cut onions. They have a little liquid in them, and if you push and push and push, they finally burst, and then the aerosol comes out and makes you cry. If you use a sharp knife, when you cut it, it just kind of oozes down. So less tears with a sharper knife. Now I'm going to come crossways, the opposite here. Kind of hold my onion and kind of use that high technique and come across, and look at that. Beautiful diced onion. Go back as far as you're comfortable. You can use that for stock, or you can turn around and chop those ends if you want. All right, so let's do that one more time. I've got my onion right here, and I'm gonna start my cut back here, but not through, and then down and down. And I'm just doing a regular dice here. If this were a shallot, I treat it a little bit different because shallot's totally circular like this, and I would make a cut across this way. If you follow your onion around like this, it's not necessary to do that. And back around, and I start to angle my knife following the shape of the onion. Okay, and I'm gonna turn it, again, high technique, and cutting away from myself, like that. There we go. And chop a little more, do that. And a whole onion chopped in just a few seconds with no tears.